Ian Moore and the Lossy Coils.
If we are two of a kind, won't you take the envy away from your eyes? I don't understand why we always take sides on these battle lines. Well, I opened the door and I let in the breeze, and it spoke to me still of the heart and its cost. And I tried to appeal, my intentions were clean, but as I was speaking, I knew I had lost. For the moments are fleeting when the smiles cast your way. The air comes alive with the sounds of the day. I don't understand why we always take sides on these battle lines. So lend me a ride if you're heading back east. I got family to give me a room and a bed. I got people that see me in a favorable light, look past my transgressions and wish me success. It's a foolish among us who thinks he's immune to life's bloody pageant, so I had to abide to a code that I'd written of my own dark designs on these battle lines. So if we are two of a kind, would you try to forgive me? Don't think me unkind. Well, I don't understand why we always take sides on these battle lines.
All right, Ian Moore is here in the Roadhouse. He's going to be in Portland, Oregon tomorrow at Dante's in Ellensburg at a festival downtown there. The next day, Vashon Island at the Red Bike, and I do believe he's going to be at the Sunset Tavern this Sunday, the 16th, on Father's Day. Here with his band, Lossy Coils.
This one is called A Little While. One sec. That's much better.
Sit story between the lines. But I promise you'll feel better if you stay for a little while. I can't be bothered by the conscience. They'll never see me as I am. You know it hurts, but what's worse is you are the one thing I never had. Woo. Everybody's looking for the story between the lines. But I promise you'll feel better if you stay for a little while. Yes, I promise you'll feel better if you stay for a little while.
All right, Ian Moore and the Lossy Coils are here in the Roadhouse. That song, A Little While. The first song was called Battlelines. We got Matt Harris on bass and Steve Barcy on drums. Great to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Ian, it's about time. It's about time.
Yeah, I really appreciate you making this happen.
I think the last time we were hanging out together, we had this discussion about who told who what joke at what time, and then that kind of segued into Southerners tell better jokes, which then segued into the whole Southerners better than Northern thing.
Well, I didn't say that. You said that.
But you totally agreed with me at that time. And since you lived in Austin, Texas, and you live in Seattle part-time,
Right.
I thought maybe you could back me up on this.
Well, I don't want to incriminate myself with all my friends. They're just different ways of being, you know. I would say the South is definitely. Well, here's what I'd say, because I'll give it a backhanded compliment. I'll say the South is warmer, but it can be warmer like hey, it's great to have you. Get out of my house. But they don't say that. But it is definitely a warmth,
Well,
you know.
as it turns out, this whole show has turned into a bit of a misguided losing proposition of me trying to prove Southern culture is funner and just better as far as eating, drinking, and music.
I'm going to be down in Texas in a week. I'm not, because people listen to it down there and they'll know, and I need to get free drinks.
Cool.
I can't afford to buy booze.
I thought you'd back me up a bit more on that.
Sorry.
Hey, let me take it back to the old days. You have quite a backstory, and I'm just dying to dive into your upbringing. You literally grew up at the feet of an amazing scene in Austin in the early 1970s, at the feet of some really legendary musicians and artists that we love on this radio show, and I kind of want to take you back there.
Sure.
You were in a bunch of bands, and I want to first touch on Joe Ely. Well, first of all, is it true that you grew up at the feet of legends?
Well, the people I think are legends. A lot of people don't know them, but I think they're definitely the people I think. I mean, it's why I play music. You know.
Well, I'm going to just throw out some names of Doug Somm, Rocky Erickson, Joe Ely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, so the thing that was cool about Austin when I was a kid is nobody knew about it, and nobody cared about most of the musics that these people were playing. Southern rock was really big, so guys like Doug Somm could play to basically a club of hippies, about 100 people. And that was the scene.
And the place was called the Soap Creek.
Yeah, Soap Creek was the main place, and then there was a place Armadillo after that, and then Antone's, and now the Continental, which is where we play now when we go down there.
Yeah. Well, I'm really curious about that because it was just kind of like this certain kind of bastion for roots music at that time, like you say, which was a bit underrated. You know, I mean, I guess the folk and blues revival had waned by mid-'70s, late '70s, and Austin was really the kind of the refuge for a lot of people. A lot of players like Albert Collins and Albert King and Clifton Chenier were still gigging, and they were still prime at that time.
Well, like Hubert Sumlin was, you know, because I was really when I was a kid, I was really into soul and blues and kind of 50s and 60s rock. So, you know, being able to... Hubert Sumlin at one point was living in Austin on a stipend because he couldn't get a gig anywhere. And, I mean, literally, you could go into Antone's and see one of the greatest...
Howlin' Wolf's guitar player.
Yeah, the greatest guitar... And arguably one of the most innovative guitar players of all time, playing to 10 people, 12 people a night. And there was a lot of that. I mean, you know, information has changed now. But back then, man, scenes were so regional. And... once those guys got out of Austin, there was no place to play, so they all hung out there.
Let me just touch on a couple things. You played in Joe Ely's band.
Yeah.
Joe Ely, I think, is one of the most such a gentleman, but also so kind of Texan masculine kind of guy. He's just such a man, you know.
He's Joe Stoll. I played with him when I was in my early 20s, and he taught me a ton of bad habits I'm still trying to unlearn.
Yeah. And then Joe, of course, opened for the Clash way back in the day, you know, through that American tour.
Yeah.
How about tell me a bit more about Doug Somm playing at the Soap Creek and what that was like?
Well, my memories when I was a kid, I didn't.
You were like 8 years old.
I was just a little kid,
yeah.
But it was more that they were part of my. The people I grew up with, and that music was the music I grew up listening to. And I think one of the things that when you and I talk about it that's interesting is different ways that, like, the guys that me and Charlie Sexton, the guys that grew up in that world, we don't try to do that music. That's the music where we come from. Whereas if you discover the music at 20 years old or 22, you make a conscientious decision. So, like, what I always try to say is the way Doug thought about music that's the way I try to think about it, which is he was rooted in blues, soul, Tejano, country, and could do all that stuff, but his head, the way he thought about music, just the same way Hubert did or Albert King or any of those guys, they were thinking as big as they possibly could. And that's the thing that I really dug about the Austin scene in the 70s, you know.
I think you're going to play a Doug song for us right now.
Yeah, this is a tune we do. We don't do a lot of covers, but this one is just such a groovy song.
This is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Me too, man. Well,
this is Ian Moore and the Lossy Coils. They're in the Roadhouse.
About what went down. Crossroads, of my life I stood. When her face, yeah, I couldn't begin to lot of soul.
All right, Ian Moore and the Lossy Coils, their version of At the Crossroads in the Roadhouse. Wow.
It's a good song.
Nicely done. You can't live in Texas without a lot of soul, Ian.
That's a good line, man.
Now, when did you become half resident of Seattle, half resident of Austin, Texas? When did that happen?
It's been a long time.
Why did you do that?
Well, because I had to grow up a bit, because once you make it in Austin, you don't ever have to do anything else. And I don't want to diss Jerry Jeff Walker about it, because it's not really anything he did wrong, but that's the template I always use, because that first record is brilliant. And then Austin has this way, at least historically, of putting you up on this pedestal, and then you can sit there, and as long as you don't change, you're golden for the rest of your life.
When did you start living in Seattle? What year?
98, but the first few years I was gone a ton, and then I've been home more lately. I have kids and a family. I live on Vashon, so and I love the trees. I love the just the space when I come off of tour, just to kind of get my head together.
It sounds like a perfect lifestyle.
It is, until you're traveling 3,000 miles to start a tour, which we'll be doing in a couple of days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. It's a lot of. I know the stewards and stewardesses very well.
So you'll be playing Portland tomorrow, like I said, Ellensburg, Vashon Island, then the Sunset Show, I think it's on Father's Day on this Sunday. So I want to pick your brain about a bunch of things. There's so many things I want to ask you about. And you mentioned the Jerry Jeff Walker album, that 1973 album, which was pretty much just, if you could trace the beginning of the outlaw country movement in Austin, when that became a scene. I think that was the year of Willie Nelson's first 4th of July picnic. And then that Jerry Jeff Walker and that album, same year. And it was, what was it called again? It was called...
Viva Terlingua.
Yeah, and there, a young Ian Moore is pictured on the inside album gate of that as a 8-year-old?
Yes, something.
You told me that a few days ago, and I kind of...
It's my brother and I. Well, yeah, because we used to dress up as cowboys, and we'd go run around. We had, the whole fake guns and the whole bit.
So your parents were
I don't
obviously...
dress like that anymore.
So your parents were obviously part of that scene and kind of knew those folks, and you were able to hang out.
Yeah, it was a super small scene, it was about 30 or 40 people, so... it's like I'm actually really into scenes. I love, as annoying as they can be, I love watching things kind of congregate and then they dissipate over time. And, I've been parts of some really interesting things in my life.
Yeah. Let me touch base on a couple small things, and you tell me first if they're accurate or they're true or false, and then you tell me a little bit about it.
Okay.
Sounds
scary.
You're one of the only two non-family members to go to Townes Van Zant's funeral.
Yeah, I actually had to call Will Sexton up and ask him because I was like, am I making that up? Yeah, JT's one of my best friends, and we'd all been hanging out, and when Townes passed, I was down there. As a matter of fact, Jolene and I had just met. I think we were still living down there, and we drove up to Fort Worth, and I remember just getting in the car going, well, yeah, of course I want to be there. And I just figured it was going to be a big, rock and roll funeral, with, Guy and everybody. And we got there, and it was just the Van Zants and me and Will. And we were kind of standing. We didn't even have dress clothes, Mm-hmm. So we were just like, I was wearing like probably a shirt like this and trying to not look like an ass. I
think the last time I saw you was for that Townes documentary I saw about 4 or 5 years ago, which was tragically great.
Yeah, it's, the one thing I always say about the Townes stuff, though, that I think is important to say, especially because so many, he's so influential, largely beyond his music, kind of the romanticism of his life, is that most of the good songs he wrote were before he went on the crazy phase of his life. In other words, a lot of the tunes were written in that apartment in Houston when he was still married and wasn't, the romantic part that she focused when she did the documentary, because like all other girls, she fell in love with Townes, is a little bit, it's a little bit romantic. They, people want to make him the rough tumbler guy, but, he was a great songwriter and he focused on his craft.
Gibby Haynes stole your record collection.
Yeah, and my skateboards. Although it's not fair. That's not fair. I don't know that he did it. Basically, I went on tour with Joe. I was in Europe, and I came home, and this is funny, by the way. These are funny questions. I don't normally get these. And all my records were gone. I had a killer soul and blues collection, and I think that the household was doing a lot of drugs, and it financed their drug habits. So, unfortunately, yeah.
So true story.
Yes, true. Oh, I'm just supposed to say true. True. True.
Did you enjoy the Muscle Shoals documentary that just played SIF
I didn't get to
last
see
week?
it.
And that's the last time. Oh, you didn't see it?
I didn't get to see it.
Because you played the kind of tribute concert before Patterson and his father, David Hood, the Swamper bass player.
You know what I did enjoy, though? It was super awesome, and I called everybody the next day, and everyone was like, yeah, it's cool. And I'm like, no, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was good.
Was when we went up for the last tune, and we all got up, and we're playing I'll Take You There, and Chocolate was singing, and she didn't really know the song, so she kind of, because it's just basically... They're just improvising the whole song. It's just basically like a gospel thing. And so she kind of ran out of stuff to do. So we're kind of standing there. And then so Patterson's like, Dad, do the breakdown. And I'm standing there. All of a sudden it's like, doom, boom, boom. And I'm like, that's the coolest breakdown ever. And he wrote it. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part. I didn't get to see the documentary. I would have liked.
Well, it's a great, but the only thing kind of missing in my mind was the fact that David Hood did create that bass line, and it wasn't really touched upon. There wasn't really any Staple Singers footage in the movie for whatever reason.
Probably a lot of Stones footage, right?
Yeah, there was a bit of that, yeah. Well, how about another song? It's great to have you here. Ian Moore is in the Roadhouse with the band Lossy, Coils. How about one more song? This one is a song about a very nefarious character who was a narcotics officer back in the 60s, I believe.
He was indeed, yeah. And he was the guy that was determined to stop the tide of the hippie revolution. So he had detailed records of my mother-in-law and my dad and all of our people. But nonetheless, He put Rocky Erickson and Rusk. Nonetheless, the songs kind of lived on, and the culture lived on, and the hippies became hippies, and then they became yuppies and started grocery stores and stuff. So everything turned out okay.
Harvey Gann, on with the moral security, know that you're right. Keeping the peace with the gun in your might. Harvey Gann, nobody questioned at all this terrible fall. Harvey Gann, keeping the derelicts down and the hippies at bay, fighting the waves and the tide of the day. Harvey Gann, no one remembers your name. Was it all done in vain? Was it all done in vain? Kids these days have lost their way, so selfish and so lazy. When I was young, I'd work from dawn to dusk to help the family roll their hair down to their ass, live in a haze just smoking grass. How could they think their world could last? Harvey Gann, do you remember the kid that you threw to the wolves? They made him a martyr for what it is worth. Harvey Gann, everyone's singing his songs. You should sing along. You should sing along. It doesn't mean you were wrong.
All right, Harvey Gann was the man's name. Ian Moore and the Lossy Coils are going to be in Portland tomorrow. They're going to be in Ellensburg at a downtown festival there the next day. Vashon Island at the Red Bike, and then the Sunset in Seattle for Father's Day, and then you're on to Texas.
Yes.
We could go on forever, Ian.
Well,
Especially,
we'll reconvene.
especially about the whole Rocky thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got more time. We'll do it off the air.
All right, I got to get back to proving Southerners are better than Northerners. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
We did it.